Okay, today I'm going to talk to you about stretching paper. It's really important to choose a high quality of paper for your watercolor projects. What I have here is an 8 by 8 inch sheet of watercolor paper, 140-pound cold press. I soak the paper in water in this cookie tray for 30 minutes, and then I dabbed off excess water. And then I'll place it on a piece of masonite board. And here I'll tape it down with my painter's tape. So it's really important that if you are working on watercolor paper that is larger than 5 by 7 inches, you will need to stretch it. Stretching your watercolor paper prevents buckling. So like I said, I soaked this 8 by 8 inch piece of paper that I took from a watercolor pad. I soaked it in water for 30 minutes. I dabbed off excess water, and I'm placing it on a masonite, or actually this is a whiteboard. I went to Hobby Lobby. I got a large whiteboard and then cut it in half. So now I have two boards. You can go to Home Depot and get a masonite board, or Hobby Lobby and get a whiteboard and cut this down. And then you'll have two smaller size boards. So once again, the reason we are stretching watercolor paper is to prevent buckling. If you go ahead and just start painting on your paper, it will buckle as it gets drops of water on it. The lighter the weight paper, say the 90-pound papers, 80-pound papers, those will buckle more. I recommend working with 140-pound paper. So for our classroom exercises, we will use, you are welcome to use a small watercolor notebook, or purchase some pad paper, and then you'll have to stretch the pad paper for your watercolor exercises. Okay, so here you have, and then we'll just let this dry maybe over the next 30 minutes, 20 minutes, and then it will be ready to work on. And we will do our 24-step watercolor. This is one I did with gouache, but I'll show in the next demo how to do your 24-step color wheel with watercolor. Okay, so now this is a smaller notebook I have. This is about 6 by 7 inches. This is great for going outdoors and doing sketches. In the case of something of this size, you do not need to stretch the watercolor paper. So you can also use a smaller notebook for your sketches, for your wash sketches. You could see it even on this one. There is some buckling. I used a lot of water on this, so you can see the paper warps a little bit. I wouldn't go much larger than this size without stretching the paper. Okay, so another little thing about paper. There are 3 types of paper. There is hot press, which has a smooth surface, cold press, which has a medium rough surface, and rough paper, which has a rougher surface. The smoother paper will give you less texture. That's good for illustration if you wanted to do some fine details in botanical illustration type work. The cold press paper has somewhat of a medium texture, and you're going to be able to see a little bit more texture in your watercolor work because the texture of the paper will absorb the paint colors. Okay, so then after this we'll move on to our color wheel.